Okay, these it's 01:15, October 18th, 2018, Thursday, and uh they're still forcing this woman to harass me, psyop me over voice to skull, using voice to skull with the UAVs above the house in the air. Um, Having her threaten to kill my mom. The shit she's saying is sick, dude. And I'm gonna tell you right now, the family member, the family member who they murdered, uh, of them, one of them was my grandmother, and this was in 2007, and they murdered her using a burst aneurysm, and caused global brain damage, and my grandmother was from Japan, um, and when I got the news that she was in the hospital in a coma, she was comatose. I was in I was in class at community college, and I just happened to be in Japanese class, language, Japanese language class. This is not a coincidence. They timed it like that. It was sick. And um, fucking she lived in this house. My grandparents lived in this house before I did. There are still people that live in the area that were involved in this. At least 4 families that are still here that knew about it, that were involved in the stalking and harassment of my grandparents, and they all knew what was going to happen. They all knew exactly what killed my grandmother, and potentially they're all accessories to murder now. Um, the um, Most of them around here are paid, and they are paid by the CIA, the government agencies, and they have to launder the money, put it into separate accounts, and they participate in that themselves. Okay, they're told how to do it, and they launder the money they're given. Partly who pays them, and partly themselves. Okay, so yeah. um, they also threaten my dogs. They threaten just about every female I love with rape and murder. Okay, um, they say sick stuff about my grandmother. Even people on the street in directed conversation, people that live around here, will say that. That's how they issue threats. Okay, um, they threaten me. In directed conversation, threaten to kill my mom. They threaten all sorts of stuff. Um, they make references. They make this woman make references to raping, threaten to rape my grandmother and stuff like that, which is really messed up. I go to pay respects to my grandparents. The last 2 or 3 times I've went there with my mom, they won't even let me mourn them, to grieve, to do that. They harass me with voice to skull the whole time that I'm visiting their resting place. They say obscene things about them with the voice to skull. They've done that the last 2 3 times the whole time I'm there. It's fucking sick. It's sick. And if I start to if I'm emotional, they do it then. They mock me. They taunt me if I cry about what's happening. Every time. A lot of this stuff is I could feel them heating up the top of my head right now. They're heating my head with a UAV's microwave. A lot of it's automated too. Like if I start to have a release of endorphins or neurotransmitters kick in, they monitor my brain remotely using RNM, remote neural monitoring. So it's automated to start microwaving my brain when I smile, if I laugh, every time that happens, or if or if I start to feel good, if there's a release of endorphins or neurotransmitters, like they say, they'll start immediately. If I eat, that's one of the ways that neurotransmitters release. It happens every time I eat now. Every time. If I run, I go for a run, I exercise, they will hit my lungs with microwaves to get me to run out of breath, deprive me of oxygen. They don't want me to exercise. If I run anyway, and start to get a endorphin release, immediately they'll come down on it. Yeah, I can feel them cooking my face with that shit right now. They also go after my pets, our dogs. They've hurt them before, especially if they're like near me in my room. They will hit them with charged particles to cause them pain, and they'll leave the room immediately. They've hurt one of them, knocked out one of our dog's teeth before. Animal abuse, you know. In our old house we lived in, my mom came back and found that she had a feeling that something was wrong with one of our dogs that we had, and they found that he had been somehow managed to get stuck. There was the floor vents that were rectangular, the heating units, the heating ducts, heating vents, whatever. The house was being worked on, and so it wasn't covered, and they found him not only inside this vent, but his upper body, his head and upper body he'd managed to get stuck into the duct itself, in the hole in there. How the fuck do you manage to do that? That dog was blind, dude. He was old. How do you manage to do that? They fucking did it using directed energy. They used a particle beam to stick them in there. They can lift stuff like that. They can't lift anything super heavy, I don't think, but they can cause like the house to shake, the floor to shake. It can be they can manipulate some heavy stuff. Okay? So yeah, they threatened to go out to kill my dogs as well. They've caused them health problems, medical problems that are expensive to treat, ear infections. They cause them to start coughing and stuff like that. It happens a lot. So this woman they use for voice to skull, she is military, I believe. I believe she is Army intelligence. But if she is a private citizen, she is definitely, either way, she's doing this under duress. And she is being hit with mind control frequencies. She is being caused extreme discomfort and pain when she doesn't comply. And she has to do this every day. She's been doing it every day since 2012. I don't fucking know. I mean, there's no other way you could do that for that long. She's being mind controlled a lot. And it needs to stop, dude. Another thing about these UAVs, man, they some are higher in the atmosphere. The hitters, some are not visible even at night. They're so high. I have really good vision. I can see most of them. Some of them are barely visible. Like they're only visible part of the time, because they're so small. Because they're so far away. But when you see a perfect triangle in the sky, and you can see them if you look up, there's no constellation like that. Perfect equilateral triangles. Isosceles triangles. There's no constellation like that, resembling that, nor has there ever been. But you will see them, 3 points in a perfect triangle, equilateral. And what those are for, or wide triangles with a wide base. Isosceles and whatnot. And what those are there for are triangulate a target to, if they're a moving target, they're able to hit them. They will move with them. From 3 directions, they can hit you. From all 3, alternating. If you're moving, they will move with you, and they can lock onto you. their targeting systems are linked up in singularity. So they use the surveillance, the spotters, and the hitters, and those are for if you're moving. Um, there's also, and I've seen it a lot, a perfect V formation using 5 UAVs in a perfect V. Usually I see it sideways. And one of these, the center UAV on one of the sides of the V has a bunch of more distant UAVs around it that are higher up in the atmosphere, like maybe 3 or 4 around it, just above it. So I'm not sure what the purpose of that is, but there is always a purpose for these formations. A V formation. I'm not sure exactly, but I've seen it out here. It's hard to notice. It's hard to miss. But if you have a good enough camera, you can pick that up. This shit is pretty blatant. A lot of this shit that they have her say is like references they fucking threaten to rape kids. Dude, like, she actually said, she was forced to say this, and I quote, "Will rape a first grader." That's what she said. These guys are pedos in the CIA. These are fucked up guys. Really fucked up. They fucking do that kind of stuff, dude. Seriously fucked up people. Street theater and stuff like that is the weirdest shit that I've ever seen. A lot of it is like, it's the same guy coming up with this stuff. And it sounds like some old fucking dude, because a lot of it is like the terms that they use in the dialogue, the scripted dialogue, they're told to say, and the street theater are terms of antiquity, like from a bygone age, like really old stuff, like from, it's really like proper and kind of upper, like kind of the shit you would see like in old money, like fucking rich upper class east, like New England type shit, or East Coast, like rich people talking like they did back in, you know, early half of the 20th century or something like that. It's fucking weird. It's fucking weird and totally out of place. Totally fucking stands out. Okay? I don't know what the fuck is wrong with these people, but a lot of it is bizarre and at times deranged, dude. Like, that shit is indicative of somebody that's fucking psychotic. You know? That's actually, like, psychotic and shit. It's just fucking weird. Weird, corny, and stupid. Really weird. So that's the people in the CIA that are coming up with that shit. Okay? So the CIA has been on my family for generations. And guess what? I'm the last of my family. I don't have brothers or sisters. I'm an only child. I'm the last of the line. Okay? They're trying to eliminate my whole family, dude. And they've been trying to. They've tried to kill me since I was a kid, dude. A little kid. There have been attempts on my life. I won't get into it, but it's been quite a few. Quite a few. And so I can't let that happen. A lot of this is funded illegally. through the drug trade, human trafficking, that kind of shit. They control much of the the opiate epidemic, like the heroin being brought in from like Afghanistan and stuff. That's all fucking done by the CIA, as they've been doing for decades and decades. Okay, like the Iran Contra affair, um, um, them the whole crack cocaine epidemic, cocaine in the 1980s, that was being done primarily by the CIA in order to fund a coup in Nicaragua. Um, to overthrow the Sandinistas, and it was documented, man. If you look at the book, I still have to read it. Dark Alliance by Gary Webb, and that guy got killed. That guy got murdered by either by CIA or Mossad. Um, and they found him in his home. He had told people that there were operatives, covert operatives, like climbing onto his house, on his roof and shit like that, weeks before he was killed, before he was murdered, and they found him dead with 2 gunshot wounds to the head, and they ruled it a suicide. Right? How are you gonna shoot yourself twice in the head? Doesn't happen. No, they murdered him for what he was saying and what he would say. They also murdered in 2013 an author who spoke up about 9/11 and his which included test like accounts from somebody that had been used by the CIA of their involvement in destroying the Twin Towers. And my theory is, yeah, they used thermite. They used thermite to cut those support beams. And what happened was, man, what I'm thinking is there's security footage of these guys. They probably posed as maintenance workers or something like that, coming in and you know and actually planting this shit on the support beams, maybe weeks or days before it actually happened. Where is that footage? Security footage. Was it ever looked into? Because it wouldn't be hard to find those guys. That was a CIA domestic operation that killed them. That killed all those 3,000 people. That was them. The CIA operates with